give you a quick overview of the 1.3.0 patch notes that released last week. As mentioned in a previous video, I'm still dedicated to bringing you updates, patch notes, and other types of videos for Three Kingdoms, even if I'm not playing it as much as I used to. The 1.3.0 patch does address a few of my issues, primarily around battles and multiplayer, which I'll go into, and there are other changes that I'll briefly go over that might add just a little bit of spice or correctness to your campaigns. As always, let's dive in. CA has added 4 new legendary characters to the game: Gogya, Huenge, Gyachu, and Pangtong. Pardon my butchering. These characters will not only get their own unique artwork in your campaigns and battles, but will also be usable in custom and multiplayer battles. Gogya and Gyachu will have their own unique triggers to recruit and their own events, it seems, as well. While legendary characters are not exactly anything too amazing for myself, it's still nice to see CA adding some flair with these new characters, especially with their own unique triggered events and requirements for recruitment. Switching over to bug fixes and the campaign, there are a host of character-specific issues that have been addressed in the beta. Traits, hero abilities, and correct information for these characters are the primary problems being resolved, with notes specifically for Xunyu and how he interacts with the campaign as a whole. The campaign fixes are equally as long, but cover a much wider range of subjects, from faction-specific events triggering properly, city management fixes such as more clearly displaying tax and corruption values, to correcting descriptions of 8 princess characters that reference the original Three Kingdoms characters, which I find pretty hilarious that it slipped through QA before release. We are now into the part of the 1.3.0 patch that really caught my interest: battles, starting with the Commander Rework. Commanders, in my opinion, and among several others, were the least functional hero types in Total War Three Kingdoms. They had a very limited roster that wasn't very appealing, and the scarcity of them in a recruitment pool meant that, at least for me, I rarely, if ever, used them in my campaigns. This patch is attempting to resolve that, making commanders able to play a versatile role by giving them access to a much broader group of units, allowing them to access formations, and giving them the Encourage attribute as well as an increased morale boost when using that Encourage attribute. This should make them a bit more appealing overall and a welcome change for army compositions. One of the best changes in this patch relates to units versus heroes in romance mode in an effort to make romance battles a bit more competitive and less hero dominant. Now, a stationary spear infantry unit or any units in shield wall will dismount heroes, reducing mobility and keeping them from mounting their horse again until the next battle. On top of this, heroes will now be more vulnerable to archer fire, with missile units also being more accurate against heroes. Lower level heroes will have less missile deflect than higher level ones to further emphasize this vulnerability. As a slight counter to hero sniping, heroes with bows will see a decrease in accuracy when targeting other heroes. This change is a great effort to reduce heroes steamrolling over troops, forcing you to be a bit more strategic in how you handle your generals in a battle. It will also allow armies with inferior heroes to have a decent chance at fighting if they know how to counter the opposing army appropriately. We've got a short paragraph on miscellaneous changes to battles in general, and while short, it's a step forward in addressing my biggest issue with the game. Several more units now have access to the spear wall formation, such as spear guards and imperial defenders. Spear wall and pike wall will now correctly apply charge reflect, with shield wall applying charge negation versus mounted as it should. Fatigue has seen some heavy rework as well, meaning that armies should recover quicker when idle or walking in various terrains, giving battles just a little bit of a longer playtime. Lastly, for miscellaneous changes, is that units will now require heavier losses before they begin to suffer morale effects, again increasing battle playtimes, if even just a little bit. I personally feel like the romance mode battles have been quite short since release, so these miscellaneous items should across the board extend the length of battles and allow for more traditional tactics to be used instead of seeing some easy mass routes. I left the most intriguing part of this patch for last, and it has to do with multiplayer. If you haven't seen Indie Pride's video on the state of Three Kingdoms multiplayer scene, I highly suggest you click on the info button and go watch it so you have some context for what I'm about to get into. The primary goal for multiplayer in this patch is to reduce OP heroes, their ability effectiveness, and remove exploits that just shouldn't be possible in competitive multiplayer. First, players can no longer choose a hero more than once for their battle, and that's the biggest one for me. No more going up against 3 Shuchos or Sun Rins and having the battle end in 3 minutes. 90% of the points in this section are related to specific hero abilities. Shucho's Condemned Howl triggers at 20% health instead of 50. Poison Blade's wind-up time has been increased by 10 seconds with reduced damage. Rage of Lu Bu has seen an increased cooldown of 120 seconds. Desperate Cry is now only usable when the enemy force is stronger. There are several of these examples where a hero's ability is either buffed because it was pretty ineffective or severely debuffed because it was way overpowered. There's also been a cost rework for all heroes, with more powerful and honestly more used heroes increasing in cost, and those less used seeing a cost decrease. What we are truly seeing in this patch for multiplayer is a decent overhaul in several areas that is trying to level out the playing field and create a multiplayer experience that brings in a lot of different strategies and heroes, which was absolutely not there on launch. Combined with the hero balance between units, what we should see is heroes that can't just plow through any units on the battlefield or literally take on armies just by themselves. What we should see are more variations in heroes in battles and multiplayer, a little more conservation with heroes, and more emphasis on actual army comps and those abilities. A balance within an army where heroes and units are more easily countered if you know what you're doing, rather than just dumb luck and spamming cheese. I will be playing some multiplayer battles in the next week or so with those that have the beta to determine if these changes to battles have indeed made an impact on the multiplayer scene, so stay tuned for a future video on that very subject. And that's all I have for this video. If you want to see exactly what changed, I've linked the blog for the 1.3.0 patch in the description of this video. The battle changes are of course what had the most interest to me, but there's not that much that has had an impact on the campaign side of things. But hell, if multiplayer does indeed pan out like I'm hoping, it should potentially bring a lot of people back. Thanks for watching, be sure to subscribe to the channel and click on the bell so you'll always be up to date with everything on the channel. Be on the lookout here for all things Total War and strategy. This is Havoc, and I'll see you in the next video.